To add to the length of this video, I also forgot to mention that the state of Utah treats unemployed and disabled exactly the same. And so the reason why they give so little of unemployment, Social Security, is because it's an incentive for the unemployed to get a job. Because if they were to pay a basic living and a minimum wage at least, then unemployed wouldn't bother to go look for a job because they've got a cushy lifestyle on government benefits. And so they purposely give too little as an incentive to get back to work. But because the disabled are also involved in this, being treated the same, being given the same Social Security, but they're disabled. There's nothing that can be done for them. They can't get back to work because of their disability in most cases, at least according to psychologists. And so it's not an incentive to starve them, to deny them a basic living, let alone a minimum wage, because they can't get back to work. But they get victim blamed, and so many try to get to work, to get back into society. And this is where the DOJ report condemns Utah for, is not allowing them back into the system, making it too difficult for them, as they get punished for working because it takes away from their Social Security, and so it keeps them down from getting out and back into a normal life again. And those who get married, who are in the system, also get punished even more severely, as the two incomes are combined together and they are given less overall. Rather than combining the two together as one, they get deducted as a result of it. And so yeah, massive abuse that this DOJ report is exposing here, that the state of Utah is torturing. The state refuses to treat those disabled different so that they can receive the necessary money to have a life, at least a minimum wage life, and be able to afford an apartment and afford transportation and food and communication and energy and fuel and the basic necessities of life, and be able to get married if they want and not be punished for getting married. And so yeah, that it's a big scandal that this exposed with the state of Utah, and I think I'll put this at the beginning again rather than leaving it at the end because of the importance of this. But the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the one in charge of it, as you will hear the nightmares of this video. But it's the same old situation, and theme song in the description below, not Nightmare by Avenged Sevenfold. Travis Wayne Goodsall. So this is a special Juneteenth video for federal holiday, a somewhat new federal holiday on which we celebrate freedom from slavery with the United States Constitution and amendments thereto. Because the original Constitution did not do away with slavery, so we had to have the amendments added to it. But now it's better. Although there are those who say, no, it's not. We need to make America great again. Anyway, and so we're going to discuss how the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not freeing Mormons from bondage and slavery. I had to bring out the little pamphlet, my reference source book for YouTube videos, for this special edition. So in 1838, there's a whole bunch of forged Doctrine and Covenants claiming that Joseph Smith did this and Joseph Smith said that, and completely changed everything. And apparently everybody fell for it. Even those ex-foes fell for it. And so he began priestcraft. He was a sexual deviant. He was a murderer of Mormons and American citizens. He was a terrorist, seditionist. He became Christian. You do know he was Jewish, right? You do know how to read and comprehend what you read when 1 Nephi chapter 1 verse 2 says it's the religion of the Jews, pre-Babylonian captivity Egyptians. He was a criminal, a thief and a mobster. He embraced the inverted pentagram of Lucifer. He changed the administration to have the president of the 12 succeed the president of the church, which there is no document. It was just Brigham Young was the one who made the change. But that's where the church gets it from. He was the Danite leader. All of this was approved by his family and Sidney Rigdon, who were there from the beginning. His gifts of prophet, seer, revelator, and translator are now denied, as they're just titles now. And translator becomes revelator. Denier of religious freedom. Seeking to overthrow religion, not just government. Oh my God. And it's pathetic that Mormons refuse to study the Joseph Smith papers, you know, the authoritative source of church history, and are clueless about authority. Because Brigham Young didn't have it. And I did the video not too long ago. If only Joseph Smith has authority to lead the whole church, nobody else, no other quorum president, takes over automatically as the president of the church with the authority for the whole church upon the death of Joseph. You know, each has their separate key. They don't have all the keys. So if Joseph Smith has all the keys and dies, and there is no proper succession, just one quorum member being the leader of the whole church only has that key that he had when Joseph was alive. So Brigham Young's key was Peter, James, and John. And yeah, they exalt it to be the president of the church. But that's not the key for the president of the church. So says the Doctrine and Covenants, section 107, verse 91. It's Moses' key. The key of the Christ is the president of the church. In the learning of the Jews, remember? Religion. And so, yeah, it's just, there is no justifiable argument for this Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to be true, let alone with what the Joseph Smith papers expose. And so, yeah, the religion is supposed to be Jewish, not Christian. Ministration succession is verse 22 of section 107. 3 presidents, not 1 and 2 counselors called presidents, 3 presidents voted by the whole Melchizedek priesthood. Didn't happen. The church ceased to exist on the face of the earth. And so too did the authority cease to exist on the face of the earth. And so there's a backup plan. And Mormons are in denial of it because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has to be true at all costs, even to the point of murder, to make it true. And so, yeah, it's the man like Moses. You know, the keys of the Christ for the president of the church. The Jewish Christ. Section 103, verse 16. He's going to be a Mormon. Second Nephi chapter 3. It's not just about Joseph. It's about Joseph setting up and preparing for the coming of that Christ. So, if you're not going to bother to study your scriptures, it's on you. Don't get mad at me, because it just shows how you are the evil one, enforcing religion with threats of violence and hate. You automatically lose when you attack me. The doctrine, agency, love, faith turned into reality. Yeah, that's a foreign doctrine, isn't it? The theology. Yeah, this has to do with the concept of Christ and understanding prophecy and revelation rather than literal history. Well, blacks were fence sitters because that's they weren't righteous. Really? Not racist since 1978, huh? And here we are on June 19th, or Juneteenth. Scripture interpretation, anything that prophesies and reveals the dates of the prophecies is Scripture. Prophecy and revelation, don't deny it. Don't call it literal history, because you deny prophecy and revelation. And so you don't use Jesus from Christianity. The name Jesus was specifically used by the Jewish authors because it's the reverse spelling of Isaiah. And thus the prophecies of Isaiah are told in story form of a character named Jesus. Ta-da! Easy breezy cover girl, or maybe it's Maybelline. So thus you need to know baby name meanings when you're going through Jewish scriptures. Kind of helps. Especially when you're trying to find the actual name of that Mormon who's going to be your Christ and try to save you, and then you're going to mock and scold and laugh and deny and try to murder instead. Cultural traditions, excommunication for those who drink Mountain Dew. When you have leaders who give orders and commandments and force obedience and force payment to the church, it has consequences. It affects the members of the church and how they treat other people. They become bullies. They become dangerous terrorist threats. Going through the military court instead of the civil court in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Getting locked up in prison in Utah for being a psychologist. Which, that's the main thing that we're going to talk about. And recruitment. Pyramid scheme. Do you not know the definition of a pyramid scheme? Do you not know how to see how your mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is exactly the same pattern match? Looks the same. Therefore, missionary work for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, not Christianity, they don't have the same financial enforcement that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has, and therefore it's not criminal in Christianity, but it is in Mormonism. Section 119. Dear God. And baptisms for the dead. Yeah, I found in the Joseph Smith papers that the whole baptisms for the dead interpretation is false. It's from the Danites of Brigham Young. So there is no baptisms for the dead because it takes away agency. It's not, well, you get to choose to accept it or not after you're in the spirit world because you're dead. No, that's taking away agency. Giving a false dichotomy choice is taking away agency. You have to give people choice. They need to rise from the grave and come to you and say, baptize me. Otherwise, you leave them alone, especially the Holocaust victims, which has been a big scandal in this church, over and over again. And the economy, yeah, it's extortion threats, section 119, priestcraft, violates the Book of Mormon, you know, the keystone scripture. Nobody can go against the keystone scripture. And yet, Brigham did. Blame Joseph for it. And all of you fell for it. Future plans. That's where Second Coming comes in. Joseph Smith told Mormons in the future, you need to save America. There's going to be an enemy that's going to try to overthrow it by destroying the Constitution. And so what are Mormons doing? Oh, they're destroying the Constitution to make America great again with slavery and child bride polygamy and the law of consecration, so that it's not just 10% anymore, it's everything. And then the church will give you what you need to subsist to continue to be a slave to them. You know, just like the plantation owners here in America. And so, yeah, it's a big difference. Joseph Smith said, save America, obey the laws of the land. This church says Jesus is going to come and overthrow the government and hand us the keys. And we will have our kingdom on the ruins of America. Wow, that must mean it's true. And historical origins. Yeah, the church never tells us the truth. They've published the Joseph Smith papers. What more do you want from them? A confession? A restoration of damages? Reparations? Hello? Not complicated. So, well, where's the other one? The dangers of porn, which we'll get to. We'll talk about it. There it is. The list of psychological name calling. Added another one. I'm surprised I didn't have it. Should have been on there. But we got it now. So, in the news, AI was being used by McDonald's to try to cut back on employees, hoard more money. And so when they say that billions served, it means that it's times $10, maybe. So multi-tens of billions of dollars is what McDonald's is raking in. They're kind of a big deal. And so they tried to implement AI to try to make more money. And nope, they've shut it down. They're no longer using AI for their business. AI hurt McDonald's. Wow, AI. Everybody's employing it, and all of a sudden McDonald's stopped using it. It just barely got rolled out worldwide, and McDonald's, probably the biggest fast food chain, stopped using it. Interesting. Can anybody say we're all doomed? Our AI overlords are attacking us. And yeah, I've been telling you that. YouTube. It's cookies, I've learned. AI is able to utilize cookies to attack. We all knew cookies was bad in the beginning. Europe forced AI on the different sites that used the cookies. It was cookies rather than AI, but yeah, this is AI in the new thing. But anyway, and so Europe passed laws requiring sites to allow customers, viewers, to opt out of cookies. Where here in America, you must accept our cookies. You gotta do it. And still in Europe, I'm sure that they find ways to threaten people to use their site or they don't get service. Which, what's the point? We're being forced to be attacked in order to receive the basic necessities. You know, like Amazon. You have to be signed in order to get the Prime discount. But if they use cookies, and the only way to sign in is to accept the cookies, and if you don't accept the cookies, you can't sign in and therefore can't get the Prime discount. You know, businesses always have been retaliating against any regulation of business. And that's why they bribe our government leaders. But anyway. And so, the megachurch, remember them? Had the big hurricane that swept on land and flooded the people, and they all came to the Hillside Church, the Hillside Megachurch, for safety, refuge, and peace. And he said, "No room in the inn, get out." And then the news went national, government pressure, fine. Come in. Well, he was replaced not too long ago. And the new guy has just resigned. And you'll never guess for what. Sex abuse. Yay! The religious abuse go-to. Hilarious. Church must be true. Because every priest is doing it. Even in the Church of Jesus Christ. Alright, let's see if there's anything else I had. Oh, right, yeah. The monolith is now in Las Vegas. And why is this in the news? I don't understand. It's just a practical joke that people are doing. And then there's a Lego crime ring going on. Lego criminal operation. Yeah, people are stealing Legos and then reselling them. I can't do that. Leave Legos alone. Let my Lego go. Lego my Lego. He goes, all right, pretty good. You gotta have at least butter, or if not, some kind of syrup or jam. I prefer raspberry. Alrighty, here we go. It begins. I have all the notes on paper. I'm hoping to do this in order. We'll see how well I do. But first we need to go back in time to the church news just last month. I've been doing several videos exposing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with psychology through family services. And so the church, in retaliation, did a church news article about how family services psychologists are helping people keep the covenant path to go on missions. Yeah, tell that to Kenzie. And so, yeah, they had their little poster child who is just one example. When you have a token, it makes it worse. I saw a YouTube thumbnail video picture, because I'm still not allowed to view YouTube videos signed in. I have to watch it not signed in, and therefore not get the special privileges of being signed in. And for what? Now, this issue. And it said that the Reverend Al Sharpton, that's who. He was saying that those who say that they have a black friend are still bigots. That's the wrong reply. And you really aren't able to make a reply as to whether you're a racist, a sexist, a bigot, a hater of the poor, a hater in general. You have to demonstrate by your works, not your actions, not your words, your completions of who you are as a person. That is how people can judge you and your character. And so the Reverend Al, yeah, his works demonstrates that he's a great American. And so, yes, he is an authority on those who claim to have a black friend and makes them bigots still. It's technically racist. And so, yeah, if you say you have a gay friend, you're a bigot. If you say you have a female friend, you're a lesbian. I mean, a sexist. So, yeah, I feel sorry for this girl. That she's being purposely, maliciously used by the church to demonstrate how they're good. And she's just the only one. They don't have dozens of case examples. They have one. That's it. That's all. A token example makes it worse for you. And the church keeps doing token examples all the time, if you hadn't paid attention. And so, yesterday in the news, the Department of Justice finally came down against the church after an investigation, audit, something like that, saying that the state of Utah, run and operated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, specifically dealing with family services and others run and operated still by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but trying to pretend not to be a monopoly, are violating the Americans with Disabilities Act. Is that what it, the ADA Act? Or is act a repetitive thing? But regardless, yeah, Americans with Disabilities Act. You're supposed to treat people equally. 14th Amendment, Section 1. They are citizens. They are to be given equal rights of life, liberty, property. They are not to be deprived. No state is allowed to do it. You can't claim state sovereignty because that's a coup. That's a secession from the nation. National divorce. Can't do it. You are declaring war against America by doing it. Right, Texas? And MAGA states. And so, what's going on here? Why is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints being exposed by the Department of Justice? How? What is Utah going to do? Nothing. They're going to ignore the federal government. This election, they're overthrowing America and they're going to get revenge. And there's going to be a lot of murders that are being called out. And so, yeah, with the whatever point action conference that was held last weekend, over the weekend, Steve Bannon, who was interviewed in 2016 by the Daily Beast and said, I'm going to burn this place to the ground. I'm a Leninist. That's what we do. And now we find out that the 2016 election was rigged, that Trump was an illegitimate president, and so now he wants revenge for it being revealed, and he's going to execute people. And so Bannon, in that his talk over the weekend, was talking about a civil war, fighting. And of course, he would go on to claim it's just metaphorical. No. And here's why. He's saying, if we lose getting Trump in as president again, then we will fight or die. There's no metaphor in that. It's fight or die as a metaphor to get out and vote for Trump, but not if he loses. It doesn't work that way. You can't claim metaphor if it's a conditional, because you lost. The war's over. And so what are you trying to claim it's a metaphor for? We already know what happened in 2020. And so, yeah, they purposely lie and deceive and claim doublespeak and reality isn't real, truth isn't true, blah, blah, blah. This is a neo-Nazi uprising, as apparently there's also a KKK uprising, a white supremacist uprising, a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints uprising. And they're all descendants from the Danites, who in 1838 all framed and blamed Joseph for what they now practice in this church. No other church, just this one. Only this church is practicing what they themselves alone accuse Joseph of doing. And nobody figures this out, huh? So, yeah, Nazi Germany. The Nazis were purposely locking up Jews in asylums for human experimentation. Wikipedia has a whole long list of all of the different Jews, or Germans, who were psychologists. Well, they weren't really psychologists because psychology wasn't really a thing yet. So they were medical doctors doing mental abuse tortures, and thus became psychologists. And so Sigmund Freud, you probably know about him, a cigar is just a cigar, and where psychologists would say, do you feel guilty when you masturbate? It's kind of a trap question of a fallacious argument, but nonetheless, yeah, that's Sigmund Freud. He never developed theories, that's the whole problem, and so none of his publications should be taken seriously, because they're not legitimate theories that have been tested for confirmation. But regardless, that hasn't stopped psychologists. And so, yeah, the medical doctors violated Hippocratic oaths to do no harm in Nazi Germany. They were purposely ordered to do harm, to perform human experimentations, to torture, to abuse, and to murder Jews. And so after World War II, America and allied nations were giving asylum to Nazis, medical doctors, and other scientists who were developing technologies and weaponry and stuff like that. But we're focusing on the medical doctors, who were psychologists, using human torture experimentations. Who Moved My Cheese, for example, is by psychologists. And what's it all about? Comparing human employees to mice that are tortured and abused by depriving them of cheese, forcing them to go through a maze to find the cheese, and then it's gone. Ha 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 ha, no cheese for you. And that's supposed to tell employers that you can do that same kind of practice to your employees. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints' distribution center back in 2001. Yeah, because after 9/11, the employees, or the companies for the church purposely denied giving raises to employees, claiming that 9/11 hurt the church financially. And chaos ensued. So yeah, it was 2001, before 9/11, when they had a big old company meeting, of which I was able to get out of. But yeah, I mean, dear God, seriously. I mean, it's one thing to have company practices. It's another thing to abuse your employees and justify it with a psychological book on how to abuse your employees and tell your employees that you have to conform and comply because this book says so. You guys are nothing but rodents. Get back to work. Quit complaining. Or we'll punish you for complaining. Right, YouTube? Abusers use the same practices and tactics and pattern of practice over and over again. They do not receive inspiration for new ideas. It's the same old tricks, same old situation. Theme song in the description below, and we'll write it down so that I won't forget and then come up with something else. And then have to put it, well, I can't do it anymore because YouTube denies me watching even my own videos. All videos I'm banned from watching now. And it's done on purpose so that I can't get views. And so YouTube then abuses me on my analytics page. Why are you getting so few views? Well, it's because you've only published 54 less than normal. No. It's because because you're denying people access to my videos. If you would give access to my videos, I wouldn't even need to put out video. I can put out one per week and still get hundreds of thousands of views for it. God. You know, abusers abuse. They know no other way. They have no clue how to be good. And they get pissed when people tell them to change and be good. They don't like it. And so, also Operation Paperclip brought over some others legally to America. And so, yeah, you've probably heard about MK Ultra, where drugging was used by a rising psychologist trying to control behavior. That's all psychology is behavioral control. Clockwork Orange, Stanley Kubrick, is all about using conversion therapy, oh dear God, on a guy who was a criminal deviant, just a really bad guy committing all sorts of crimes in the UK or Britain. And in the end, Stanley Kubrick lets you know that conversion therapy doesn't work. Oops, spoiler alert. And it was Cynthia Pollard, she preferred to be called Cindy back in high school, who I was dating to set up to ask her to go to the prom with me because the homophobic fear, using a repetition of the word, was spreading throughout the 80s and definitely at my high school, where the peers were saying everything was gay and you're gay. And that's a psychological manipulation to name call, repeat it over and over and over and over and over again until the people submit and they accept that they are the name calling bullying that they were told they are. And then they then get abused for accepting the name calling bullying. It's a trap. And so while at the golf and stuff in Riverside, Riverton is in Utah, Riverside is in California, and finding out what favorite movies are, what's your favorite ice cream, what's your favorite color. I hate dating as a kid. I hate dating altogether. Dear God, can't we just go straight to a relationship? My hell. She said that her favorite movie was A Clockwork Orange. I hadn't seen it. R-rated movies are bad. And so, when I turned 17, actually, yeah, I think 17 I could get my own video rental, and I was 17. I was going to be turning 18 for that senior year when I was dating her. And so yeah, I would then have to go to the rental store that was behind the 7-Eleven there on the corner, where the one road takes you to Norco High School and the other road took me to Auburngel Middle School, junior high. Memories on the corner of my mind. And would be able to rent my own videos without my parents knowing what I rent, and saw it in the store. So I rented it and saw it, and then I was concerned. Why is this her favorite movie? Is it about how conversion therapy doesn't work? Or is it about torturing abusive men? Or is it just an art critic that she's acknowledging that Stanley Kubrick is a cinematic genius? But nonetheless, this all is involving psychology. And so remember, the Department of Justice has claimed that psychology in Utah, i.e. the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is violating citizens' rights in the state of Utah. Please understand this in context. And so, in the 1950s, the church was practicing conversion therapy, just as was done in Nazi Germany, and in the 60s by Russia against political opponents. Oh, you're running against me in this election. I think you're mentally unstable. We need to send you to an asylum where they get drugged with psychotropic drugs, and thus gives rise to Big Pharma. This is how Big Pharma got started. The psychologists doing experimentations of drugging created Big Pharma. And if you hadn't caught on, every single drug created by Big Pharma causes harmful side effects. They are not medical doctors. They are scientists performing or creating chemical substances to experiment on human beings with to control behavior. There is no such thing as a mental... Let's go over the list of name-calling by psychologists that likewise gets used by bullies. I have seen how psychologists and the church's support of psychology has trickled down to members of the church as a defense for the church being true, by calling critics of the church impaired, disabled, diseased, ill, retarded, mental health challenged, psychotic, psychopathic, mental, emotional, behaviorally challenged, unstable, hysterical, mental malfunction, chemically imbalanced, extremist, radical, deranged, stressed, moron, depressed, special, criminal, LGBTQIAPO+, religious extremists, fanatics, religious fundamentalists, illiterate, crazy, mad, psycho, schizophrenic, sensitive, mental problems, cuckoo, needing professional help, unhinged, mental inability, nuts, nutty, fruity, batty, loony, bipolar, behavioral problems, attitude problems, snowflake, flake, demented, stupid, in denial of the list, which also includes needing help, cray-cray, and addicted. The new edition. Yeah, all of these are abuses, name-calling, and it's all from psychologists. And the bullies are the ones who pick up on it, because they were the most likely the ones in the psychological couch. And so they went, wow, these are great ideas. I want to take notes. There's some kids at school I want to try this on. And so, yeah, that's how it's done. Repeating over and over and over and over and over again, bullying, name-calling, abusing people until they crack, until they break, until they accept that they're the ones with the problem. And then, boom, you torture them. as if you weren't torturing them already. And so can you imagine the nightmare of medical doctors who, instead of waiting for clients to come to them, purposely cause the problems to demand and enforce people to be their client, violating the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm. See, because doctors only can put out advertisements to the public to come see the doctor. But if people are fine, why do you need to see a doctor? It's even in the Bible stories, the well need no physician. Only the sick need a physician. And yet, doctors still try to advertise to people who are well to come in to get a regular checkup. You still have to pay, even though your insurance company is the one that pays for it, but you have to pay your insurance company. So you're still paying. You're now being forced to pay. And so thus they then trap you into saying, well, you're already paying for it, you might as well just go and see your doctor. And then there are co-pays. What the hell? Doesn't my insurance cover this? Well, no. And so, because medical doctors are not auto mechanics, as you have to have auto insurance also, auto mechanics don't have a Hippocratic Oath either. So you take your car in to get the renewal of the smog and emissions test, and then they say, oh, wow, we found a problem with your car. Yeah, you never knew about it, but it's going to cost you $200 to replace, or we'll just not certify you, and then you're going to have to pay $200 anyway to be approved. There are over 600,000 vehicles who are not up to date in the state of Utah. What's up with that? See the scams that are going on in the state of Utah? You need to know the bigger picture of what's going on. And so why are they all smog polluters? Why haven't they all gone electric? Oh, there's an electric car company that wasn't able to sell their vehicles and now they're out of business. They've gone bankrupt. Wow. Yeah, gas and oil is a big, powerful industry that has been able to shut down technology for generations. Denying inspiration and invention and creation and improvement of society to purposely destroy for the sake of making money, big money. And then the church invests in them through the stock market. And so, yeah, psychologists need clients. They don't just sit back and say, oh, come in just for a wellness check. Just this one small heart. Just come in for a wellness check. Because, again, they have no Hippocratic Oath. So if you fall for the trap, cave into their bullying name-calling, and you say, well, what harm could it do? Oh, look, you have an issue that's going to require $200 a month to never fix. They must have human beings to make money. Human beings are their source of revenue. They can't wait for people to have a problem to come to them and do advertising. No, they did that in the 80s. And it didn't work. And so they had to find ways to trap people and force people into the system to be their clients. And so In the 80s, I was a big TV watcher. The church tried to come out and say that kids should not be on cell phones watching TV. It's the same argument. It's always been the same argument. And it's always religion that's behind the push. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And it failed. So I got to watch TV as much as I wanted. And so I have associative memory, and so I'm very well aware of patterns, and I'm very well aware of what I have watched before, because I can remember and associate it. And so I'm watching TV, and this one type of commercial keeps repeating itself regularly. And they're saying, do you notice these certain symptoms in your child's behavior? Isolationism, dropping grades, whatever else was involved. And they say, your kid may be depressed. Call this number now and get the help they deserve. And then the commercial stopped. And some time went by, and then the commercials resumed again. But this time, despite the same symptoms, exact same symptoms, now your kid's gay, because we're in the 80s. Call this number now and get the help your kid deserves. Well, it was for conversion therapy. Ooh, they didn't bother to tell you that. And so, yeah, and again, they stopped. Time went on, and then the commercial came back again. This time, exact same symptoms. Now your kid is a terrorist. Oh my God, there are terrorists among us. Yeah. Those same symptoms mean you're a depressed gay terrorist. And so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, falling for this, thinking, great, more clients for our conversion therapy at BYU and family services. Did a special priesthood relief society meeting to cause the fear of gays in Mormons, and to reassure and give hope in Jesus that they can be cured with electroshock therapy, conversion therapy. And so my uncle came out as gay, abandoned his Barbie doll wife and Barbie doll daughters, and thus was an apostate anti-Mormon, antichrist Korahor. And my dad tried to convince him he's not gay. My uncle insisted I was born that way. I wanted to stay at home cooking and cleaning with grandma and mom rather than slave working on the farm. Therefore I must be gay. What? What? And so yes, this is why the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does not teach sex ed, other than to say, no, don't do it, don't think it, don't feel it. Nothing. Pay us first, get sealed in the temple, then you can have sex. But it has to be baby sex, no other kinds of sex, even in the marriage. And then the members kind of rebelled against that, and the church had to drop it and just say that the law of chastity is no sexual relations except with your husband or wife to whom you're legally lawfully married, which would now become polygamy under Nelson in 2019. To those, because they're not using pronouns for LGBTQIAPO+. They've burnt those bridges over and over again. The leaders for LGBTQ come to the church asking the church to be nice and good, and the church sends 70 representatives or somebody chosen from the membership to go and talk with them and placate them and say, oh yes, we want to build bridges with you, isn't this great, we're working together. Church will do a church news of how they have token relationships with LGBTQ, and then Oaks gets up in conference and said, screw the gays. And all hell breaks loose as the bridges are burned. He's next, don't you know? Once Nelson dies, Oaks is next. He hates women. He hates LGBTQ. He hates blacks. He hates everybody. And he's next. So, yes. Any business that requires human beings to provide the revenue for the company, not the sale of products, human beings, is an illegal, unconstitutional company. They cannot exist. And so, unless they don't do that practice, because medical doctors cannot do that same practice that psychologists have been doing, and specifically here in Utah. And so, let's go back in time again to right after World War II. Stanley Smith Stevens, Mormon, born in Ogden, did his work in Colorado. He's the evil person who created the non-dichotomous and dichotomous categorization of human behavior. You can't do that. It's already done in science for categorization of physical objects. That's how we label a tomato a tomato, a fruit versus a vegetable. When I was a kid, it was a vegetable, and then they changed it, used a different pronoun for it. Or Pluto was a planet in our solar system, no longer designated as a planet. It's just a roving asteroid or something. Nonetheless, that's how it's to be correctly used. And instead, Stanley Smith Stevens incorporated it for behavioral control. If you have these symptoms, you're either depressed, gay, or a terrorist. That's where they got it from. Stanley Smith Stevens. And even before that, in the late 70s, early 80s, there was the psychological abuse in grade school. We had a class one day in which the teacher implemented the color test. Which color are you, kids? Answer these questions to find out. And I'm going, okay, this is weird. Why would I want to be a color? Where's pink? My favorite color is pink. I don't see pink here. And yes, my favorite color was pink. It still is pink. I had to tell people it was blue. Can't tell people it's black, because then people will think I'm disturbed and troubled and a depressed gay terrorist. Better keep me away from video games, that Pong. It's harmful. The Sears catalog with women's fashion. Evil. Causes harm and addiction. Yep, psychology behind all of that, not just the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We're getting to them. This is going to be a very long video for this Juneteenth day, isn't it? And so, let's cross out these that I've already done. And so, yeah, you only have 4 colors, and so there's only 4 answers for each question. And if your answer is not one of the 4 answers, tough. Pick one. And they're all behavioral. And I'm a kid. I'm like, I've already found out that I'm good for nothing with a career aptitude test. Not even to be a janitor. Which I saw right through that when I saw the question. Do you like to clean? No, I don't like to clean. And so, yes, all of the careers showed low. None of them were sticking out. All these other kids were going, oh, I'm going to be a fashion designer. Oh, why can't I be a fashion? I wanted to be a fashion designer. Her. A policeman, a firefighter, a lawyer, a doctor. Nope, good for nothing. Because they didn't want to factor in other things, like anthropologist of the ancient Middle East. Not an option to choose from. Decipher of Paleo-Hebrew. Nope, not available. Pick something else, you lazy bum. The church is true. Leave science alone. That's the Legos. God. And so, yeah, medical doctors. Yeah, psychology are not medical doctors. They have a PhD to be called doctors. It's a fraud. They are not medical doctors. They're fooling you into thinking that they are legitimate medical doctors when all they are PhDs. And so, yes, the BYU system, and for that, but go back to the colors. And so, yes, the colors. Stick them in order. I do have BYU, right? BYU, there it is. Okay. And so, yeah, what it was a behavioral test to find out where the teacher needs to place me in the seating arrangement and which children to be aware of as red to keep them under control. And so, yes, psychology was already beginning to be implemented in the school systems so that you didn't get sent to the principal's office anymore. You got sent to a psychologist who told you you're LGBTQIAPO+, and that you shouldn't be tested and graded anymore. You just need to get a passing grade for participation and get a little trophy or sticker for your graduation. And then go right into the job market, unprepared, unskilled, uneducated. And that'll go over well with the businesses that will then go bust because they were forced to hire you as part of the DEI requirement. Yeah, psychology was purposely destroying our nation. Those Nazis, they're not grateful for their American liberators, are they? And so, yeah, and then this also was utilized with the 2016 election. Remember Steve Bannon saying, "I'm going to burn it to the ground"? Yeah, he was in charge of Cambridge Analytica at the time, and they were the ones who were in charge of the data from Facebook of all of those questions with only 4 answers. 1 question each, 4 answers for 1 question. Which Disney princess are you? I was Pocahontas. I was trying to be Belle because I knew the test, because of the color test. I knew how, as a kid, how to manipulate it to be different colors. I can change my behavior, teacher. I have multi-personality disorder, because I can choose. And so, yes, it's all a scam. And so, yeah, that Facebook data, we would come to learn, was sent through Paul Manafort, sold to Russia. And then Russia took that data and then bought advertising on Facebook, so that if you're a Republican, you're now being told you'd rather be Russian than vote Democrat. And if you're a Democrat, the Russians sent you ads saying, "Quick, call this number now to secure your vote for this election." And people fell for it. And now we know the election was rigged. And so, yes, this year I saw YouTube doing those same advertisements. YouTube was getting paid by a company in Mexico doing those same advertisements that were on Facebook in 2016. So yes, I can find out which Disney princess I am and have the added Disney princesses options. Frozen, for example. Yep. And so yes, I reported those ads to Facebook or to YouTube, saying, hey, this is the same kind of stunt that was pulled on Facebook back in 2016 to rig the presidential election. Oh wait, it's a presidential election year this year, and here they are on YouTube. And then boom, I get attacked by YouTube for taking away their money. Huh. Complainers get punished, huh? Not allowing YouTube to overthrow the presidential election. Yeah, and how did they respond? Oh, medical misinformation. YouTube's not medical experts. What are they doing using that as an excuse to punish people and take down videos that aren't even medical? They're religious. Deuteronomy 19. Huh. Wait a minute, Deuteronomy 19 is about false accusers. YouTube's false accusing me. Huh. Talk about your beam and moats. Yep. Psychology is on the rise with the Nazis, with the KKK, with the Confederates, with the Scottish Rites, with the Illuminati, with the Danites. They're all the same. White supremacist Christian nationalists. And so, yeah, as you can see, these are fake diagnoses. Psychology has a name-calling, bullying diagnosis for whatever Disney princess you are. You just don't know it. They're all fake. You're not really Pocahontas or Belle or Frozen or whoever. Jasmine. It's fake. It's just a little fun thing, or it's supposed to have been, but nope, it was being maliciously used to steal data and then brainwash you to cause the overthrow of a presidential election, and it worked. And so it was being done again this year, and it got exposed and shut down, and YouTube sought revenge, caused malware, banned a video claiming the thumbnail was porn, so I couldn't post any videos for the rest of the day. And then they got mad that I appealed, and the appeal was overturned so that I could post videos again. And so, yes, other problems ensued, and now I'm no longer allowed to watch YouTube. All using cookies. Got your cookie right here. And so, yes, this is Stanley Smith Stevens. That was responsible for this. They have these box categories for the non-dichotomous, also called spectrum, in which, if you give in to the certain bullying that they call you, you then get placed in that box category, and then you get treated for that. And if you're not gullible enough to go regularly, you may require drugging. You may request drugging on your own. Great! Help Big Pharma. Good job. You're now going to die early. As this is Juneteenth, we'll bring it up. Blacks in America have been deprived of equal access to medical care, and as a result, they've been suffering. There's even a lawsuit for a hair product that has been chemically poisoning black women because the product is specifically targeted to black women. So black women are suffering from this poisoning from this hair product, and now there's a big lawsuit for it. And so, yeah, the mortality rate of blacks, you know, men typically die in their 50s and 60s, young. They don't live long because of the poor medical care in America for blacks. And so Willie Mays died yesterday. He was 93 years old. Wow. Beat the odds, lived a good, long, full life. Well, it's because he's a superstar in baseball. Became filthy rich. Thus was able to get medical care. Lived a full, healthy life because he was given equal access simply because he's famous and rich. Oprah, she's still going on because she's rich. She's able to get health care. And so instead of giving out cars to her audience, she should have been giving out health care. She can do whatever she wants to do. I'm not going to tell her how to live her life. But, yes, there's definitely a visible inequality in America. So, psychologists, in creating categories for the different names, they don't have a causation. It's all behavioral symptoms, and thus symptom management with the drugging and the therapy. They are purposely causing the symptoms, getting people to believe in having the symptoms so that they can then be abused in the bondage of psychology to get the therapy and the drugs to die early. You are being human experimented with. This is called, in fallacy terms, a self-fulfilling prophecy by bullying. Because the psychologists are just bullying you to accept their diagnosis. It's not a diagnosis. They're making it up. They're name-calling you. But once they get you to accept it, you've now self-fulfilled their self-fulfilling prophecy for you. They've already set up the category. All you do is have to fall into their trap. And they gotcha. And then they claim, hey, it wasn't us. He's the one who's got the problem. We're trying to help him. (1963). President John F. Kennedy, before he was assassinated, was it 63 or was it 61? Anyway, he signed into law that all asylums in the United States of America need to be shut down. They have to cease to exist. People need to be given medical treatment. So, state of Utah, in defiance, hates the federal government, says, bleep you. And so their asylum is now called a hospital. There are no doctors there. It's not medical. It's not a hospital. It's an asylum. They still are violating that act. Remember, the DOJ said that Utah, thus the church, thus all psychology, are violating the ADA. They're torturing and abusing those with disabilities that have been forced to have them. They don't have them. They fell into the trap, and now they're stuck. They can't get out. Once you're drugged, you're trapped. Once you're in the system by legal. There are psycho courts in Utah to bypass the justice system, to bypass human rights. Just like the drug court. Instead of being punished for your crimes, just go to the drug court. Just go to the psycho court. Then your rights are gone. This is what the DOJ report is explaining. The government and psychologists, thus the church, are abusing and torturing people by taking away their rights to life, liberty, property. You can't do that. The drug courts and the psycho courts, which are somewhat the same, because psychologists have learned if we're going to get more clients, we need to claim more casualties, more victims. And so that's why the change in 2014. Valley Mental Health changed the name to Valley Behavioral Health to get more clients, to justify more clients. The reason why is because they wanted criminals to be added to their list, druggies to be added to the list. And so, yeah, a druggie. Along with addicted. It's among the list of addictions. And so, yes, you're a porn addict. That's another name calling. A drug addict. A claustrophobic. Vertigo. All of those. All fall under psychology. Psycho. Which, Alfred Hitchcock. Psycho. Vertigo. The bird. Well, that was well, he did a bird thing, but it wasn't called Birds, was it? Now we gotta find out. Take more time on this. Because Edgar Allan Poe did a Birds. So, let's... Can't update Chrome. We're punishing you for complaining. Movie, Birds. Oops. The Birds. Alfred Hitchcock. The Birds, yeah. It is Alfred Hitchcock. Yep. Yeah. And of course, using little kids. Oh no! Kids are in danger! What are they going to do? Yep. If you want people to take action, use kids as the victims. Right? Islam. Same old situation. So, yeah. Fun. And so, there is no cause. They made it all up. They lured people in to their trap and call it a diagnosis. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that they got people to self-fulfill for them. And then you get trapped in the system. And with drugs, in case you don't know, because druggies are now a part of the psychosystem. And so they claim that a druggie is a schizophrenic because he's having hallucinations. No, he's a druggie. He's got brain damage. It's not schizophrenia. It doesn't exist. Russia should have confirmed that for you. But as long as you conform and comply, they get away with it. You're being human experimented and behaviorally controlled. And so, yeah, withdrawal symptoms. They force you on drugs, and the longer they keep you on the drugs, the more addicted you are to the drugs that they gave you. And so, when you need more drugs, you start to have your behavioral change. And it just happens to correspond with the particular name-calling, self-fulfilling box category diagnosis they gave you that you fell into the trap with. Because the pharmaceutical companies are the ones creating the drugs. And if you hadn't caught on, the other drugs that are advertised on TV commercials all end up in the courts of law for causing harm to the patients. And so they keep coming out saying, this may cause death. That's the small print, or the voiceover that is showing how people are living happy, healthy lives with dogs and little kids, when they're saying that taking this drug may kill you. And then it goes to court, and the drug companies have to stop making the drug, but all they do is switch the labels on the same drug and resell it. do the commercials all over again with different actors and actresses having a fun, good time, and then, yeah, may kill you. And so, yeah, there used to be a drug for those who had AIDS. May kill you. Yeah, I'm sure this isn't bigoted whatsoever. To lure people who are gay to take the drug and then die. You're not catching on yet? Nazis want revenge. They're not thinking they're American liberators. Mental courts, psychology, Nazis, LGBTQ conversions, therapy is torture, 80s commercials, asylums. Okay, now we can get to some actual people here, huh? Also, if you took the tour of the state asylum, the old haunted mansion, they're always haunted mansions. What's up with that? Then they're used in movies as haunted mansions. They have a list of what diagnoses people had being locked up there for the rest of their lives when they died in an unnamed grave. Masturbation, apostasy. Sound familiar, Mormons? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was using the asylums to send in those who were critical of the church, to lock them up for life and drug them, torture them, abuse them, along with LGBTQ, IAPO+, and those who did not pay the church and get married first, prostitution, by definition. Because if the church didn't force you not to have sex or any kind of thoughts or any kind of touchy-touchy, then it would be perfectly fine to pay the church to go to the temple to get sealed. But it's because the church says no to all forms of sex and sex feelings. Now it's prostitution, because you now have to pay the church before you can have sex. That's the definition of prostitution. If the church would just leave us alone and teach sex ed, everything would be fine. That's when Natasha Helfer comes in with that scandal. And so, Utah, with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, tells Mormons that they can't touch, they can't have the feelings, they can't do anything until they're paid up. And so then you go to BYU, where you can be educated in psychology. Right, John Deland? But you have to conform and comply to the church. And so all of these graduates need jobs in the field that they graduated in. But those jobs require human beings to have the problem in the first place. But there is no problem except that which they themselves self-create and trap people into the system. See how the system works in Utah? This is all a criminal operation. The DOJ said that the state of Utah psychologists are violating the ADA on this. This is the whole system in operation and how it's run. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints indoctrinates Mormons from birth to be haters, anti, no LGBTQIAPO+, no masturbation, no sex thoughts. You must pay the church to get married in the temple. And thus the sex crimes that are dominant in religion, because it's all Christian who denies sex to its members. But only the church denies sex to its members with the forced requirement to pay them. And so then you go to BYU and you get educated in a science field that's now been infiltrated by psychology, thus null and voiding the science part of it. Any fallacy argument in a science nullifies it as scientific. Automatically not science anymore. It's now a pseudoscience. And so the legal education, nope, null and void. It's now psychology. You now ask for people's feelings about the defendant, and the jurors use their spiritual witness feelings as to whether the person's guilty or not. All ruined. In the medical profession, dear God, keep psychology out of it. And what other, businesses? Yeah, feel good about us keeping you from your paycheck. The cheese. Because that's what it is. We don't want to pay you. So turn that frown upside down. Feel good about it. I can't pay rent or gas to get to work. Can't pay for food. Can't pay for diapers. You've now ruined me, and I'm forced to quit because I can't get to work. Yeah. And so, the whole system is set up this way. That's why if you talk to a psychologist in all of the different career fields, whether it be a caseworker, a therapist, a counselor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, who are the drug pushers, they're the one who writes the prescriptions for Big Pharma and get the kickbacks from Big Pharma for putting so many people on the drug that they're experimenting with. Even the quotas for cops here in Utah, it's illegal. You can't do it. You can't use people as the source of income to pay for the police officers' paychecks. And they still do it, and they call it something else to try to claim to deny and get away with it. No, you can't do it. Technically, we shouldn't have police roaming the streets looking for violators. That's against the Constitution. You gotta have a warrant specifically declaring what you're looking for. You can't go roaming around saying that, I'm just patrolling the streets. No, you're not a security guard, you're a police officer. We call you 911 when we need you. You better show up. And nope, you can't have it that way. And so, they now will not respond to a 911 call or 911 call, but they will patrol and pull you over for a minor traffic violation so that you have to pay hundreds of dollars for their paycheck. They won't do a criminal investigation for this reason, because it requires that you get an education and then pay the person to be in forensic investigation of a crime scene. So what have I been telling you about? That the police have been claiming they need help with investigations because they aren't gonna do it. It requires money to investigate. And there is no money in investigation, only money in giving out tickets because they're not paid correctly. whole system is sabotaged. And so we really don't have forensic investigators in the state of Utah. They have to rely on tips, people telling them that there's a crime, so that then they can go in, quickly make the arrests, ship them off to the corporation jails, which is another problem of human trafficking, slavery, that needs to be set free. This whole system is corrupt in the state of Utah, and it's throughout the whole nation, but it's very dominant in Utah because there were Nazis here, Nazi sympathizers. And so, yeah, the whole system feeds itself as they educate people and therefore need to provide a certain number of clients for each one of those who get their degrees, and thus they have to trap more and more people. But yeah, as you can guess, eventually they're going to run out of people to entrap in the system. Not cool. And so there are victims here in the state of Utah. Not just the missionary girl that was used as a token example of how great this whole criminal operation is. And you need to feel good about it or we're going to punish you. One was a woman I knew who would spend hours talking with me, telling me her life story. I'm able to get women to talk to me. It's kind of cool. I like women. But it was disturbing what she was talking about when she was 17 years old. She would tell of how when she was 17 years old, her sister had made brownies for her friends and not for her sister. But there was some brownies left over in the pan sitting on top of the stove. And so she ate some. Friends are all gone off to some party or wherever they went. And she ate some of the brownies. She loved chocolate, loved brownies. And next thing she knows, her parents come home and found that she had left the front door open. Neighbors had reported seeing her naked, frolicking around the lawn, and parents found her on the bed, naked still. And she was saying crazy stuff, believing that she was seeing things that weren't there. Her parents thought she was possessed by the devil, called their bishop for an exorcism. Bishop comes over and says, call a psychologist. She's 17 years old. She's not 18 years old. At 18 years old, there's nothing they could do for her. She has to be a danger to herself or others. Being naked is not a danger. It's illegal to be naked in Utah. But not back then. They hadn't figured out to make that a law yet, I guess. And so she's put into the psychiatric system, psychological system. And she is drugged for schizophrenia because she thinks she's seeing things. I'm listening to this and I'm going, marijuana brownies. She's having a very bad hallucinogenic reaction. She's never had drugs before in her system, And then she got a whole bunch of it all at once, and she's freaking out. And she's in denial that the brownies were laced with marijuana. She still, to this day, blames herself that it was her fault, that she didn't study in school, that she was too busy, brushing her hair, being a blonde. Which, back in the 80s, the blonde thing. Psychologists again. Are you a Marianne or are you a Ginger? Do you like Marianne or do you like Ginger? Well, Marianne, well then you're wrong. Because you're supposed to want Ginger, because you're a typical man. Yeah, all kinds of abuse, both to women and men. And men are from Mars, women are from Venus. No, they're not. We're human. You're rodents. No, we're not. We're humans. See this abuse? When a psychologist publishes a book, you know it's abusive. And yet, people cling to it. The whole self-help fad that went on in America. No, you're being abused. Don't do it. And now it's turned to Tide Pod challenges. It's just morphed. Dear God. And so, it was very clear. And yes, I did notice that when it was time for her next supply of drugging, she had the withdrawal symptoms. And when she thought that the power of Jesus could heal her and stop taking her drugs, she would have a massive episode and have to be hospitalized. I mean, incarcerated in a psycho ward until she was back on the drugs and leveled out again for her behavioral control. And so, the longer you're on the drugs, the more severe the withdrawal symptoms get. And the psychologists say, see, you need to take the drugs because you've got the problem that we told you you had, and you accepted that you had it, or you were forced to by the law. It's very evil. And so Kenzie does YouTube channels. I haven't seen any of her stuff lately, and I'm not allowed to see them anymore. I'm signed out. But I don't know her channel name because she just goes by Kenzie. She tells in one of her videos that I remember that when she was 15 years old, she was sexually abused by a married priesthood leader. She tried to tell people about it, and people ignored her and dismissed it and let the priesthood holder get away with his sexual abuse of her as a 15-year-old girl. And so then she becomes 23 years of age and she says, why don't I go on a mission? Notice she's still Mormon. And so she goes in for her bishop's interview to go on a mission. Bishop says, is there anything in your life that needs to be discussed with proper priesthood authority that hasn't been? Well, at 15 years of age, I was sexually abused by a married priesthood leader. Picks up the hotline to the church. They tell the bishop, send her to family services. Family services tells her she's depressed. Nope. And so she's denied going on a mission. I told that story again right before the church news then came out with the good Mormon who conformed and complied to family services and got to go on a mission. That was a direct attack and assault on Kenzie that the church pulled. Because I was the one who repeated that on my channel. And so she since left the church, blames Joseph Smith for the 1838 lies and accusations by this church, believing them to be true, knows the church isn't true, but believes the church about the lies of Joseph Smith. What's up with that, ex-foes? How did you get conned? And so, nonetheless, she still believes she's depressed and is taking drugs for the rest of her life until she dies early. The state of Utah has well been the leader of the majority of women taking depression meds. And who prescribes depression meds? A psychiatrist. Those women who are the majority per capita in the world who are on depression drugs, which depression drugs, the news just came out before I was shut down from watching YouTube, shorten lifespan of women. These women are being abused by the church. They're not depressed. They're sad, but because they are unable to turn the frown upside down, the church is drugging them, blaming them, victim blaming women who are abused by the church. This is what bullies do. They victim blame. How dare you stand up to me? You're the bad person. You need to leave me alone to let me bully you. Can't complain, right, YouTube? And so, yeah, it's sad tales. You know, you got the Protect LDS Children, with all these children getting sexually abused by bishops and primary teachers and other Mormons and leaders of the church. All of this is the church, while at the same time the church is saying it's porn. Porn is to blame. You shouldn't have been looking at porn. I got another hate comment by a person the other day who said, you need to stop posting videos because you're porn addiction. You're wrong. The church is true because you have a porn addiction. There's no such thing. It's a psychological, self-fulfilling prophecy category for behavioral control. But the church has always been attacking an idol to blame, to get you into psychology, to get you in the trap. So, Jody Hildebrandt, counselor, psychologist, for the 8 Passengers YouTube channel, telling her how to treat her kids to control their behavior. Torture, abuse. They're now both in prison. She was a psychologist, educated at BYU. Let's find out. And then the Frankie is the other woman. Jody Nan Hildebrandt is an American convicted child abuser. Awesome. Yep. She's a Utah licensed counselor since 2005. In 2012, she was the director of Lifestar Utah County, a franchise of a national company based in Utah that specialized in porn addiction and sex addiction. Oh my hell. Yep. Where did you go to school? There it is. Oh, wait a minute. In 2012, Hildebrandt's license was put on probation for 18 months after she disclosed sensitive, confidential information of a former client to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and Brigham Young University between 2008 and 2010, according to Utah Department of Commerce Division of Occupational and Professional License documents. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints announced that Hildebrandt was no longer on their family services referral list due to the case. Yep. Yeah, we're no longer affiliated with the Boy Scouts of America, so we can't be responsible for paying for damages. We're no longer human trafficking little babies through our adoption agency, so we can't be held accountable and responsible to pay for damages. We're no longer involved in the... They do this all the time. The same pattern of practice. They run things into the ground with their criminal operation and then bail and say, hey, we're not responsible. We're not a part of that anymore. Where did you go to school? They're not going to say. They're keeping it a super sacred secret. I'm betting it's Brigham BYU. Education, University of Utah. Oh, and BYU. Yep, devil does not support his own, Jody. You found out the hard way. Yep. Educated at both God's schools. But which God? It's a different God. Which God is the true God? Find out every year when University of Utah takes on BYU in the football game. That determines it, and it's always mostly the University of Utah who wins. The original God of Brigham Young, who's Adam. So you see the system? See the pattern. Born and raised in the church, educated by the church, in the career field, abusing other people, torturing, abusing, stealing money from, and then getting caught, the church disowns you, and you go to prison, not the church. You fell into the trap. Just like psychologists. You got in trouble, we're trying to help you. Same pattern of practice. Religion, psychology, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, family services. And Natasha Helfer. Self-fulfilling prophecies, name calling, 2016 Facebook. Yep, this is it. Yay! You don't get to listen to Travis anymore with his 2-hour video. Nobody lasts this long, do you? YouTube has shut me down. This is all just a waste of my time, right? As you got today off, unless, did they force you at work to choose between Martin Luther King Jr. Day or Juneteenth? Because before Juneteenth, businesses would say, which one do you want off? Martin Luther King Jr. or the celebration of the founding of the state of Utah, July 24th? That wasn't when Utah became a state. Yes, it is. We have the parade every year. See, that proves it. With the police force in the parade. You better accept it as the founding of Utah. Okay, don't torture me anymore. Stop abusing me. We're not abusing you. Turn that frown upside down. Natasha Helver. Dum dum dum. I forgot to do that. Why is it not written down? What the hell? It just came to my mind. I remember, and I guess I didn't. The state of Utah considers druggies, criminals, LGBTQIAPO+, homeless, all to be mentally ill. All considered the same. So remember Operation Rio Grande? They were going to lock everybody up in prison. Get them off the streets. That'll solve it. That one congressman spent all night, and then, I know exactly what to do. I got revelation from Jesus. We're going to lock them up in prison. They had no plans to make more shelters in advance, to just transfer them over to the new shelters and then close down the Rio Grande. Nope. And then that night, I remember the news still. They had to call in more cops because they didn't have enough on duty to make all the arrests. And so people were being called in. All of the traffic tickets they needed to get for that payment of the operation. And, oh no, the homeless fled. They didn't stay as we told them to freeze. And so all they did was spread out the problem, and then they claimed, mission accomplished. It was a great success. Good for you, officer. Yeah, well done. Church is true. Because that's what it was all about, is protecting the church from panhandling at Temple Square. Well, they purposely built the gateway across from the homeless shelter, knowing that the panhandlers would panhandle there and keep them away from the church. And they knew that the business owners would be complaining about the panhandlers, and thus it was all a setup. And so, yeah, they had no intention of building new shelters. They were solving the homeless crisis once and for all. And so, yeah, it made it worse. And so, then yes, they had to build shelters. And how do you keep them funded, Gail Miller? Yeah, you've got to create more homeless. The same pattern of practice. And since they're all considered the same, they were all put under the clientele of psychology in the state of Utah. And so, yes, the new homeless shelter for the men was built right by the jail, Satellite County Jail, where they were originally locked up in, and threatened, we're not releasing you from jail until you agree to go through the mental health court or the drug court if you got caught with drugs. One of the two courts. And very few did. They're homeless. They now have a home. Good job. That failed. And so eventually they had to let them go or prosecute them through the courts, which there was no crime for being homeless, so thus they had to let them go. It was a complete and utter failure. They only got a token person to be on the news and got them to say, oh yeah, I'm so grateful for my American liberators. Got me the help I need and I deserve. And so yes, it was also right next door to Valley Behavioral Health Center operations. And so now, the 3 shelters for Gail Miller, which the money, all the money from the government and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which was a money laundering operation with Gail Miller, only goes to the corporation and the board. That's it. None of it trickled down to the homeless who needed it, who it was supposed to be used for. Nope. Because the company is a private company and they need to make a profit. How do you make a profit? Screwing over the customers and employees. And so yes, there was a high turnover rate at the shelter. Oh, who are you? You're new. Yeah, I was just hired. The other guy quit. When you see job ads from a business that is always in there, because it's a high turnover job rate, it's not a good business to work for. Everybody knows that who's been looking for jobs forever. You do not want to get hired there. It is a bad work environment that needs to be shut down and controlled by the government, but they never do. So, yeah, dear God, Nightmare City. So, Natasha Helfer, again, educated, born and raised Mormon. She's a psychologist, works for the church. Natasha Helfer, for whatever reason, is abusing the medical science by incorporating it with psychology. So psychology, fake science. Mix it with science, the science is now faked. It's false. I talked about this with my brother, who was valedictorian at BYU. Went into sociology. It's supposed to be a hard science. But nope, BYU used psychology with sociology, null and voiding sociology. So he then went to the University of Michigan for his PhD. They said, you're not using any of the sociological scientific methodologies. Your theory and your PhD are denied. So he cried to mommy, and mommy told him to abuse the University of Michigan and threatened them with extortion for the religious freedom card. And they caved and gave it to him. Get the hell out of our university. And so now he works for the church. So last year, right before my birthday, the church threatened him to shut me down on YouTube, or he's going to get fired. And so I get contacted by his lawyer that he had to pay for, not the church. And so then I explained, and they had to back off because the church threatened him to attack me. You can't do that. That's a crime. And then he's being forced to get a legal representation to do this. And so, yeah, the lawyer obviously realizing the criminal operation of the church, backed off and didn't protect my brother by going after the church. Because my brother obviously is not going to sue the church for threatening his career and job and livelihood. But, yeah, I'm smarter than my brother. And I didn't go into his field. I'm smarter in his own field than he is as a PhD valedictorian because of the evils of psychology. It's a false education. It's all a framed setup. So, Natasha Helfer, same situation. And she's trying to claim the science, which is correct, that there's no such thing as porn addiction. Porn is an idol. It's just image. There is no harm. There is no evil attached to it. There is no addiction attached to it. There is nothing to the image of a woman. And women don't catch on to this. Women are the biggest proponents of body shaming women. And they don't get it. They don't understand that they are being weaponized after being abused. And so Natasha Helfer was smart enough to realize, no, there is no shame in women. It's right there in the scriptures. Even Christians should have been able to read it and comprehend what it read. Adam and Eve were both naked and were not ashamed. Who made them ashamed? Oh, that serpent. And so yes, the church. Like I said, the church is obsessed with porn. And it is Lucifer's doctrine to be obsessed with porn. To cover up and hide. To feel guilty. To feel ashamed. To wear the underwear of the covenant of your bondage and the prostitution. No sex. No looking. No touchy. No feelings. No thoughts. Nothing until you have paid and gotten married in the temple. Prostitution. And so Natasha Helfer is trying to tell her clients, no, you're not addicted to porn. And masturbation is not harmful. Dear God. And so the church found out about it, fired and excommunicated her. And so then she got caught up by John DeLynn to do the interview. Oh, fellow BYU students, alumni of those who've been excommunicated and fired by the church. And then the church, after that scandal was dropped from the news, forced to be dropped from the news. Notice how the news will never investigate the church. They only cover what is covered nationally, or everybody knows about it through social media from popularity. Not from my channel, although the church news keeps stalking me. And so, yeah, that's the only way the news will cover things. You know, Tim Ballard exposing M. Russell Ballard. And then he's caught in criminal activity, and then all of a sudden he dies? What's up with that? That's strange. So, when are people going to wake up and realize the evils of this church? Mormons know about wicked King Noah, that because of his wickedness, he forced others to be wicked with him, and people emulated his wickedness. So both. And it created an environment of complete and utter corruption that led to their destruction. And when some guy came along and said, you're wicked, you need to repent and not be corrupt, yeah, they wanted him dead and they murdered him. And used that term for an end of a burnt stick. Which the Pope kept using. Hilarious. So yeah, when are you guys going to wake up? When are you going to realize the remainder of the 3.5 million of you left in the church who are not watching this video anymore, who got offended and attacked me, or who got offended and didn't bother to watch, or YouTube got offended and didn't recommend it for you? You are in bondage to this church. You need to be set free. The church needs to be dissolved again. Yeah, you didn't know it was dissolved first time, did you? In 1887. It ceased to exist on the face of the earth, and they keep lying to you. They will not tell you the truth. They cannot be good. Everything that you think might be good, nope, because it's founded upon corruption, abuse, torture. All the government leaders are compromised to the church. All corporations, including the pseudo-corporations of psychology, are all beholden to the church. You must obey the church. Give loyalty to the church. The church runs the nation, whether the nation realizes it or not. They run the world, whether the world realizes it or not. And you should have caught on with the abuse that you have witnessed done to me. As the church turns Mormons into weapons to attack other people to protect the church and its corruption. This is what my whole channel has been about, to tell you the truth of history and of this church and its corruptions, its seditious conspiracies, its terrorism, its abuses, its violence, its murders, its thefts, its financial frauds and scams of the government and of insurance companies and of the Mormons, of the sexism, the racism, the bigotry, the hatred of the poor and the needy, the sick and the afflicted, of LGBTQIAPO+, of other religions, especially the Jews, etc., etc., etc. This is a white supremacist Christian nationalist church. You will never have a black apostle. You are not getting it, and you're purposely not getting it, because you're just like those under King Noah. And the DOJ finally busted the church's family services for abusing Mormons. And I say this